In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a few things with graphics in Java. And in the process, you're going to get some experience using code that you didn't write. I've written a program that will draw and display images of 3 different flags. Your task is to understand my code well enough to change it so that it will draw 3 other flags. The first thing you need to do is copy all of the code I've written in the file called flagpanel.java. You should be able to find that on Canvas in the assignment description, right here. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, I've shared it in the video description. So we're going to click here, download that file, and then I'm going to open it. And I'm just going to select all, and then I'm going to copy. Okay. Now we need to create another Java project in NetBeans. So we choose Java application. Now, usually it doesn't matter what you name your projects, right? Well, in this case, I'm going to suggest you name it Flag Panel with a capital F and a capital P, because that'll make it easier to integrate with my code. So let's click Finish. So once we've created a project, let's select everything in here and delete it and paste in the code from the other file. Now, if you followed my instructions exactly, you should be able to just click Run and see a working program. So let's try that. Okay, so you should have a window pop up. And if you can't get this part to work, you might try right-clicking on the actual file, flagpanel.java, and then go down to Run File. And that should also work. You'll notice that this program's a little different than everything we've done so far. Usually our programs just use the console output window down here, and it's just a text-based program. But of course in this tutorial we're learning how to use graphics, so I created another type of window called a graphics window. With this type of window we can do a lot more cool things than just text-based programming. We've got buttons, we can draw shapes, we can color things. I mean, you can even put an image inside a graphics window. Today we're just going to practice using some of the drawing functions in one of Java's graphics libraries. Okay, so if you'll notice when I click Italy, another flag comes up. And when I click North Korea, another flag comes up. So let's look at the code that makes all this happen so that you can figure out how it works and then change it so that it draws different flags. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit. All right. Okay, so I want you to come down here to where it says public void draw Japan flag. So all of this code here deals with the Japan flag. The first thing I want you to change is right down here where it says white. Let's change that to say blue. And let's save that and click Run. So it's kind of obvious what happened here. Now instead of having a white background, the Japan flag has a blue background. Let's see if we can change something else. If I make this green, save it, and then click Run. Now it doesn't really resemble the Japanese flag at all because we've got a lime green circle on a blue background. Those are some of the easiest things you can change right away. Now let's get a little bit more complicated. Let's see if we can change the position of that circle. So if you notice up here I've created 8 int variables. So this top one says rectangle left x. The rectangle shape is the background, which used to be white and we turned blue. And if you look down here on this line, I'm using that variable as part of a draw function called fillRect, which is short for fill rectangle. So whatever values I put in here, and here, and here, and here, are going to determine what the rectangle looks like. So this variable rectangle left x has the value 0. That's telling this function down here to draw the rectangle starting from the very left of the graphics window. This variable right here called rectangle top y tells us where the very top of our rectangle is, and since we gave it the value 0, that means it'll be at the top of our graphics window when it's drawn. By the way, in most graphics windows, the y value starts at the top of the screen and gets bigger as you move downward. So the next variable here is called rectangle width, And if you look down here, we're using it in the same method to draw a rectangle. And it has the value flag width. Well, turns out flag width is another variable I created up here, and it has the value 900. So 900 is the total width of the window because I wanted the flag to stretch the entire space of the window. So we're passing in the value 900 for this rectangle. And then the same thing here, we're using our fourth variable called rectangle height, which has the value flag height, which equals 600. So all four of those values get passed into the fill rectangle method, and they fill a rectangle of that size in that position with the color blue. Now in order to draw the circle, I've got four other variables here. So even though it's called oval, every circle is technically an oval. So we can make this oval have the same height and width and it'll be a circle, right? Okay, so oval left x is just like rectangle left x. We give it a value for the leftmost position of this oval that we're drawing. So the value of oval left x is assigned to be whatever flag width divided by 2 subtract flag width divided by 6 is. So if we do the math here, we can figure out that flag width is 900. So divided by 2, we've got 450. And then flag width divided by 6 is 150. So this is the same as saying 450 minus 150. So if I were to change all of these formulas to just be the exact values, it would still work. Watch this. So this would evaluate to be 300. This one would be flag height divided by 2, which is 300, minus flag height divided by 4, which is 150. So 300 minus 150 is just 150. And then this one is flag width, 900, divided by 3. So that would be 300. And then this one down here is flag width divided by 3, it's the same one, and it'll be 300. So if I run this, it'll work just fine. See, the circle's right in the middle where we want it. But now if I were to change the flag's width to be, say, 1,200 pixels wide, now let's run it and see how that changes things. See how the circle's no longer in the middle? So in cases like these, it's safer to use a formula rather than just have the value 300 or 150. So let's undo all of that. Let's bring it back to the way it was before. If I wanted to draw a circle that's right at the top left of the screen, I could just put a 0 here, and I could put a 0 here. Let's run it. And there it is. Now let's say I wanted to make the circle smaller. Well, I know that flag width divided by 3 is 300. So let's just change that value to be 200. And now you can see it's not a circle anymore because the width is less than the height. So we can change the height to also be 200. So now we have a smaller circle up in the top left corner of our flag. So I don't want to spend any more time talking about the Japanese flag one. Let's move down a little bit. So the next one is the Italian flag, and there's a method called Draw Italy flag here. And there's actually 3 rectangles, as you can see. So just like with the Japanese flag, where I had the 4 variables created that defined our rectangle, now we've got 3 sets of variables. We've got 4 variables related to the first rectangle, and then 4 more for the second, and then 4 more for the third. And if you look down here, the actual code that draws those things uses those variables. And this one uses the second rectangle's variables. And this one, of course, uses the third rectangle's variables. And each time we're drawing a new rectangle, we're changing the color. Now these 2 colors make sense, right? We just see the value red and the value white. But this one right here is something we haven't seen before. This is actually a custom color. So in computer graphics, every color is actually made up of 3 components. We've got a red value, a green value, and a blue value. And if you're wondering how I came up with these values and found out that this was a greenish color, I just used something online called a color picker. So if we open up HTML color picker, this is what it looks like. I can change this color value, and it tells me the red, the green, and the blue values. So wherever I put this, if I want a purplish color, I can move this around, get a little bit gray purple. I can get a nice softer purple. Anyway, so those values right here, the 101, the 0, and the 147, would be the values I would put in NetBeans right here. So right now, these colors make up a greenish color. So let's run it again just to show you. When I click on Italy, I see that greenish color we've created. So let's change those values to be something a little different. So let's change those values to be kind of an aqua greenish color. I like that one right there. So it would be a 0, a 255, and a 169. So let's type those in. Okay, and we'll run that. And click on Italy. Now we've got kind of a seafoam green for our Italian flag. So if you wanted to create your own color, just follow the same pattern here. Instead of saying color dot and then whatever the color is, just type new color parentheses and then the 3 values. So if we move down to the third method here called draw North Korean flag, this is of course the most complicated one, and there's a lot going on here. And I didn't actually create variables here for the arguments that are going into this method. So if that confuses you, feel free to create your own variables and plug them in just like we did up above. So what's actually happening here is I have 3 rectangles painted on top of each other. The first one I create is a blue rectangle that covers the whole flag. And then I've got a white one on top of that, and then I've got a red one on top of the white one. So if we look at the flag, we can see the result of that. We've got blue in the very back, and then a white on top of that, and a red on top of the white. And then we can go even further and draw an oval on top of the red, which I did. And then down here is the most complex part of it. I actually drew a star. So this is the third draw function that you can use. It's called fill polygon. And it actually takes in 2 lists of coordinates. It takes in a list of x coordinates and a list of y coordinates. And those are all defined right here. So if you want to create something more complex, you'll have to figure out the actual pixel values where those things are. So the first pixel value is x equals 200, y equals 265. So if we look at the North Korean flag, x equaling 200 is right here, and y equaling 265 is right here. So those coordinates intersect right here, and that's the first point of the polygon. So of course the rest of the coordinates here correspond to all the other points of the star, and the program plays dot to dot with your points, and it fills in the shape that those points make, resulting in a star here. If you wanted to create a polygon that had more than 10 points, you just change the value here to be like 15 or whatever, and then you'd also have 5 more coordinates for each of these lists, but I'm not going to do that here. So remember, your assignment is to create 3 new flags. They can't be Japan, they can't be Italy, and they can't be North Korea. But I've given you these 3 examples to show you how to use the different drawing methods. So now that we know how to draw Italy's flag, it should be very easy to create France's flag or Belgium's flag. And it shouldn't even be too hard to create Germany's flag or Russia's flag, because you just change the rectangles so that instead of being vertical, they're going horizontal across the flag, and then you just have to change the colors, right? Now, because that's so easy, I'm going to ask that you only do up to 1 bar flag. You don't have to do one if you don't want to, but if you choose to do a bar flag, you can only do 1. And the other 2 need to be more complex, like the North Korean flag here, we had to draw a polygon. So be creative and have fun with this assignment. I hope that's enough to get you started. I know we covered a lot of new material today. We learned how to use code that someone else wrote. We learned how to draw shapes and color them using one of Java's graphics libraries. And we learned a little bit more about coordinates. So if you need to, feel free to watch the video again. And if you have questions, let me know. I'll try to answer them in class. Anyway, good luck.